Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the fourth episode of Evie and the Robot. Today we'll be covering House of the Dragon Season 2, the long-awaited season that I've been very eagerly waiting for. I watched the first season when it was first coming out, and I suppose before we get into Season 2, we should cover our thoughts on Season 1 since uh, obviously we never really talked about Season 1 because the podcast didn't exist before then. Uh,
Yeah.
do you want to go first or should I?
I'll go first.
Alright.
Um, well, I guess in like some of my thoughts is that like this was like post Game of Thrones season 8, so like expectations were in the gutter, and the idea of like a prequel show or something like that would just seem like a bit like just please be good, please be good, please be good, please be good, and then it was good. The fuck? And like not just good, but like Game of Thrones level good. Like I'd say overall season 1 is like Game of Thrones season 2 level is what I'd say.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I
And like because like for one, like season 1 is like season 1 of Game of Thrones is like practically perfect. It's like a well, I don't want to say perfectly self-contained, but like it has it's sort of like Doctor Who season 1 where it's like just a perfectly solid complete series of TV.
mm, yeah. I didn't mean to interrupt.
and and House of Dragon season 1 is like and like probably the most and like well because like season 3 Game of Thrones is also like okay when I say Game of Thrones I'm just counting the first 4 seasons like when like
when it
that
was good.
when I say yeah when I'm saying Game of Thrones level I mean that not the next 4 seasons. I'm like no just but uh well because like season 1 and 4 are like top freaking tier TV for like Game of Thrones and that. It's like
Yeah.
like the peak of the show is that, and also season 3 of Game of Thrones has yeah season 3 has the Red Wedding and the whole build up to that. So like of course it's good. It's like House of Dragon in comparison to that it's probably like yeah season 2 because like I'm not gonna lie I don't remember that much of season 2 to be honest.
Uh, yeah. I definitely remember some things of season 2, but it was definitely mainly just build up for the big event type stuff.
Yeah, which surprisingly enough, House of Dragon is kind of fallen in that line as well.
Yeah, I I guess I'll talk about season 1 of House of the Dragon. I before House of the Dragon season 1, I'd never seen Game of Thrones. Like I was never uh like I heard about it um when I was like
Wait,
talking
so
with
wait, did you watch House of Dragon first, or did you watch Game of Thrones first? Like, did
when it
you?
was coming out. I made sure to try and finish the show, but like
No,
when I was
yeah,
airing, it was like I'd never seen it. It was not until like House of the Dragon was announced where I was like, oh, I might as well start watching it because uh
all right, yeah. I was thinking on I was just thinking on my latest rewatch, like specifically in regards to like the theme song, because you know how they use the same theme song. I was thinking like,
yeah.
so if someone whose first Song of Ice and Fire show is House of Dragon. When they watch Game of Thrones first time, are they thinking what they use the same song? Why is a House of Dragon theme here?
Yeah, I when I was watching I pretty much agree with Evie. I think that the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones really good. I I also don't really remember much of what happened in season 2, but it has been a while for me, so Um,
The only thing I can remember is for Tywin and Arya scenes, and that's only because Tywin's my favorite Game of Thrones character.
I remember the one battle episode. Was it Blackwater or
Yeah, Blackwater.
yeah? That was the one, and I remembered a couple other things. But other than that, I mean, I'm not saying it's like like forgettable or anything. I would just say like compared to the other Game of Thrones seasons, it is very easy to mistake season 2 as the weakest out of the four. Um, Although, shortly after season 4, it'd be easy to mistake any of the later seasons as the worst. Um, but yeah, I tried after season 4. I tried getting past season 5. I managed to get about like halfway, and like usually I'm fine when a show like takes a little bit of a decline in quality. Like I can usually move through it, but I was so engaged with Game of Thrones that I just that even though if it was like a like it was like a mediocre ish decline, I still couldn't kind of handle it because it was just too much. Um, I think I stopped at around the scene where Sansa gets you know, um, I think it was around that episode, and then I was like,
Uh,
yeah, I was like, yeah, I'll I'll watch House of the Dragon. I'm not really expecting too much from it, although like I did research and I was like, well, apparently David and Dan were apparently the main perpetrators for why the later seasons of Game of Thrones were
well,
so bad, and
well, there's a bunch of different factors, honestly, because like
yeah,
I don't think David and Jan are bad writers. Like again, they wrote for Tywin Arya scenes because they aren't in the books, and some of the best scenes like in season one were played down to them. Like the scene in season one where Cersei and Bobby B. Baratheon are like talking about their marriage and like how they kind of fell apart, and that was on them. Like that was on D&D. So like
yeah,
they can write good. It's just a case of I'm not sure. The biggest cause of it is the fact that they were offered a Star Wars trilogy, and they
yeah,
just wanted to rush the end of Game of Thrones
yeah,
because at that point they were winning it. Because like I guess saying they ran out of books is a bit inaccurate because like season 5 to season 6 was like around the time when like the book material was slowly fizzling out. Like
yeah.
they got to where John's end was like in the books John is still stabbed out in the snow.
I suppose I will say that character wise, David and Dan do a pretty decent job. I guess when it comes to around the plot stuff, they kind of didn't know
Yeah,
what the fuck they were doing.
the infamous well Danny kind of forgot about the Iron Fleet.
Because like the character stuff in season 5, from what I remember, was fine. I liked some aspects of it. There were other aspects that I was just like, why'd you do that? like
Yeah,
the one that I can remember
like
is throwing the ring into the water, or that whatever it was, and then like it just comes back a few episodes later, and it's kind of like what was the point in that? um,
what was this?
Season 5, I think it was when like Arya, threw I think it was a ring or something into the water, um, and then it got retrieved, uh, by someone else. I can't remember exactly what since I'm a bit fuzzy on.
Yeah, yeah, the entire Aria Bravo shit is just gone, just gone from my head.
So yeah, I guess I wasn't as cautious as other Game of Thrones watchers when House of the Dragon was announced. I was like, oh
Well,
yeah,
well, it's I guess because it's because I was around that time. I vividly
yeah,
remember during like it was like one of my final years of school, and it was like the World Cup. It was like scorching hot heat wave where like we were all just and it was in history class especially because like and the teacher and a few of the students were saying, did you see the new latest? Did you see the Game of Thrones episode? And like this was 2019, so this was during the final season,
Oh
and like,
no.
I'm fairly certain I could hear them just slowly get more and more disappointed
Oh no.
because like it's like I lived through that era. Like I always saw adverts for it. I always saw merchandise for it everywhere. Like I saw references to it like everywhere. Like it was an internet darling. And
Yeah.
then after 2019 and season 8, it just vanished. It was like it vanished from the internet. Just like the cultural significance of it was just gone. Like
Yeah.
I think it was like last year I watched a film called Love, Simon, and
Mm.
there's this whole bit where he deduces who the person he's talking, because like in the film he's like emailing someone like who's also gay at his school, and he's trying to deduce them, and he says that he was a Game of Thrones fan, and like someone's wearing a like Night's Watch shirt or like a crow shirt, and I thought, how old is this film? And it came out in 2018. I thought, oh,
Uh-oh.
the fourth, isn't it?
But before the dark times.
It's like somehow a show turning bad instantly dates a film, because
Yeah.
if this came out after 2019, no person, no teenager would go around saying they're a Game of Thrones fan. Like
Yeah.
between 2019 and 2022, that was the dark period. Like no one was proud to be a public Game of Thrones fan.
Ugh, it's like I
Like
remember
that's how.
I remember back like after the like the finale, the series finale ended. There, I remember talking to a friend like, "Oh, is it really as bad as people are saying online?" He's like, "Well, at least we have the books." And then I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I was like, "Well, uh, I mean, so I wasn't as like I was never involved in Game of Thrones until way later, so I never felt that disappointed. I saw that disappointment. I saw it online. I saw everyone talking about it, and I was like, well, I guess I'm glad I didn't watch that show. But when I did, when I watched those 4 seasons, I was like, wow, this is like it's some amazing storytelling. I I cannot wait for season 5. And when I saw season 5, I was like, okay. So
Yeah.
watching season 1 of House of the Dragon was a big breath of fresh air, and rewatching it recently, I liked it kind of even more. I
Yeah.
I did have like originally like I was like yeah the show's good. I just have a like I used to have a problem with the pacing of the first half because a lot of time jumpy sequences, but
Yeah. It's because it's the thing, because like it's adapted in Fire and Blood, which isn't a straight-laced book like the other ones. It's a history book. It's
yeah.
like it's detailing the history, so like it doesn't, it jumps about every few years. So like you're kind of gonna run into that where like it jumps. Oh, it's like episode two is it's two. It's oh, that's 2 months. No, it's 6 months. Then it's like oh, it's been 3 years. Then it's been another year, and then it's been 10 years,
I think
and that's been another 6 years, and it's like Jesus Christ.
I think the the reason why I found it so kind of whiplashy at first is that because I wasn't really used to it. I was like, oh, this is just going to be a very it's going to be set in this time period. It's maybe there might be a couple time jumps, but overall it'll be pretty consistent. Rewatching it with the knowledge that it kind of like jumps around, I found it to be a lot more watchable for me. Like I managed to get a lot more invested, because I always thought that like the second half of season 1, I was way more invested in the first half. But the first half of the show, rewatching it now, I was way more invested on what was going on, um, like all the plotting and scheming, and after watching season 2, I can like say that season 1 overall is great. I'd say the same. It's probably up there with it's probably the same level as Game of Thrones season 2. Um, I guess I guess after watching House of the Dragon season 2, I gotta say I kind of like House of the Dragon season 2 more than season 1. Like the season 1 has like a lot of hard hitting moments in the second half of season 1, but I feel like it's very much a case of season 2 is more consistent. Uh, season 1 has higher highs. Season 2 has more consistency. Um, it, at least that's the way how I'd view it.
Yeah, like because like it'll be hard for any episode to top Lord of the Tides for me because that episode is just perfect for me.
Yeah, I rewatching season 1, seeing that episode where the quote of he is a bastard and she is a whore. That line delivery is so good, and then just immediately seeing his head get chopped off, like that and seeing the King Viserys just like walking slowly, like walking towards the Iron Throne. Oh, that scene probably can not be topped, at least until season 3 comes along. Um,
It's like there's a reason why George R. R. Martin has said like the show version of Viserys is better than the book version of Viserys.
yeah, I I think there's a lot of like misconceptions about season 2 because uh
Yeah, like there's well, I guess if we talk about season two now, like there's one thing we have to get out of the gate, and it's the
yeah,
fact that it's it's 2 episodes down from the previous season. It went from 10 episodes to 8 episodes, and like the whole how like a lot of shows are going 8 episodes now. Like Doctor
yeah,
Who is just a series of 8 episodes, and like it's honestly really annoying. Like I wish it would just go back up to 10 because like
yeah,
ten's the good middle ground. But like with like at least with Doctor Who, it's like that was like it was like a conscious choice for it. Whereas this one, it was like they're about to start filming, and then HBO said, "Oh yeah, yeah, you've got 8 episodes down." And this was during, and this show was a child of a writer's strike, so they
yeah,
couldn't rewrite the episodes to accommodate it. So like they had to basically just, just work around the fact they have an episode missing, and the
yeah,
fact that it isn't utterly incomprehensible is a miracle, and the fact that it was one of the best things on TV still
yeah,
is a freaking miracle.
yeah, absolutely. Like I think that the season 2 finale still works. I just think that like the way, like, I can see how people would be I guess like that they would think that the show would progress a lot more plot wise. I can see the misconception of that because like the end of season 1, it's very much of a the next season is we are preparing to go to war, and there might be like a battle cliffhanger that'll end on in the season 2 finale. But
Yeah, because I'm fairly certain that's the episode that was cut
yeah,
because there's a battle coming up called the Battle of the Gullet, and that's like a big event in the Dance of Dragons, and like that was going to be the finale originally, but like then because like I think they've said I think the showrunners have said like the job of a showrunner is to like adapt the source material while also realizing we don't have the budget for it.
yeah, it which is very
So but
understandable.
yeah,
But
yeah, but like I don't know, like the finale, like the final scene really did work as like a sort of very
yeah,
foreboding final scene because like it's everyone converging. Like you have the
yes,
Starks, the Lannisters, the Tullys, the armies all converging and getting ready to go to war. It's like the end of series one, it was like war was all but inevitable, and now it's like war is literally on the doorstep.
yeah, because like season, I feel like season 1 people will think that there's going to be like an all out war next season, which yeah, I just like didn't think that's how it was going to happen, especially when season 1 aired. Like I do think that there was going to be like some massive strain and a lot of conflict, but I don't think that that was the time where war was going to happen. Um,
Yeah, because uh, for context, I haven't read up to Fire and Blood at that point, but I've because I'm obsessed with Game of Thrones and that. It's like I'm aware of what goes down in the Dance with Dragons, and like I was just thought, and like the general assumption was it was going to go for 4 seasons, and we know it's going to go for 4 seasons now. But like I always assumed that like the latter 2 seasons is where was where shit really goes down. Like
yeah,
that's where that's where you'll get the Battle of the God's Eye. That's where you'll get the Hour of the Wolf. Like all the big events, like aren't really spaced out all that much. They're kind of a bit more condensed. It's why from episode 8 of season 1 up to presumably the final episode is when like you won't see any time jumps. It takes place over the course of like a year or two.
yeah. It's very much setting up the conflict for next season. Because I always got the impression that next season would be a very character focused season, especially where it would be developing the characters and pretty much completing their arcs. Because I think what people misunderstand is like if they go to war immediately, then if characters just die, you're not really gonna feel much for them because
Yeah, because like again, like in Fire and Blood especially, like it is a history book. It isn't an actual book where you get the inner monologue. It's written by it's an in-universe history book written by someone 100 years after the fact, and
yeah,
like basically both sides were stupid because it caused a war. So
yeah,
like it has biases in play, and the one sort of source, and it's written with multiple sources. Like one of the sources is a little dwarf called Mushroom who makes sex jokes and apparently says he was there at every meeting. This is how this went down and that.
yeah, very unreliable like narrators type thing.
It's you're meant to like it's meant to confront the idea of bias as an unreliable narrator. So like it's why it's so ridiculous that like fans on Twitter now say no, it's not like the book. So it's like the book wasn't like the book.
Like I think that I feel like the finale works for what it was going for because this whole season
Yeah,
very much a character focused season, and then once we got to that point where all the characters were concluded, we got Rhaenyra's arc, pretty much concluded what she was going through this season, and Alicent's, Daemon's, pretty much everyone's is pretty much come full circle except for a couple of them. Aegon is, he
yeah. Like I guess like the main players like
yeah,
Aegon's whole arc is Aegon's whole point this series is for you to realize how like despite him being a bit of a cunt, like
yeah,
he's a rapist in the first series, he just screwed up so much, but you also realize it's not really his fault. Like
yeah.
his father never loved him. Like that's like Viserys was we all love Viserys, but that's admit he never loved any of Alicent's kids.
Oh no, he had a very soft spot for Rhaenyra, and that much was very clear. And Aegon never even really wanted the throne to begin with. He never really wanted to be king. He's just he he just kind of wanted to do his own thing.
Yeah,
Uh,
and the only reason he was put on the throne is because Otto and Alicent were like, he must be king because he's a man. That's why.
yeah, and that whole
And,
like comeuppance for him, only to be like immediately like later on in the season being like, no, you're not that wise, you're not that important. You should just do nothing. Let everyone else
yeah,
handle it.
and especially like in his one of his final scenes in finale where like he's burnt to a crisp. He's like he ends up quite looking a lot like his father by the end, like all half burnt and
Yeah.
kind of just rotting away in bed. It's like and like him saying his his knob fell off during the fire.
Yeah, they're
So a little comeuppance for the all the sexual assault he did in season 1.
yeah.
But but like his line of then what the fuck was the point of this? Like
Yeah.
it's like it's a case of like yeah, it's like a lot of season one, like you were kind of like it was just funny in season one because like it's like in episode three when Aegon is on his name day and it's like this is gonna lead to a civil war where like this grown ass woman is gonna be beefing with a teenager and it's like it's a little funny and then
Yeah.
at the end you're like no Aegon kind of sucks
Yeah.
and then you get to a point where like and now you're at the point where it's like no you can't really blame him like all he
Yeah.
wanted was for love he just wanted to be loved like that's like one of the final bits in one of his final scenes in season one where like he's he asks his mother if she loves him and that and she just says you idiot and then like then at the coronation like they start yelling his name and showing him love and that's when he's like yeah I like being king so like
Yeah.
he doesn't want to be king he just wants king but would be king because it means people can love him unconditionally something that literally no
And
one has done.
yeah, and that much is shown throughout like season two because he's hanging out with a lot of folk like around. He's getting drunk all the time, and
Yeah,
especially near the battle that happens in episode four. Not really like he's not really going to the battle because he wants to be there to support his troops
yeah.
or anything. He wants to be there because it's like, look at how badass I am. I rode on a dragon. I saved everyone.
Well, well, that and also because he's drunk.
Yeah, yeah, that too. And
He's drunk dragon driving, and also it's like he's kind of been demasculated, I guess. Like he's been sort of told, like, stay here. You're useless. Just shut up and stay here. And then he's like, no, I'm the king. I'm going to, I'm going to win the war. And then the bit where he's glad to see Aemon, and then
yeah.
you just see it, and then he just gets consumed in Vhagar's fire.
Oh, that was like so brutal. When I saw Aegon just falling to the ground, I'm like, did they just do that? Did they actually practically almost like I thought they actually killed him off, and I'm like, did they just?
Uh, yeah. Well, I know that he like survives a fair bit, like because it's the hindsight because with Game of Thrones the source material hasn't been finished yet, whereas this is like and a lot of the source material has been referenced in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, the,
But like
uh, there's definitely like a lot of neat things like in Game of Thrones that are referenced in like House of the Dragon, like in Game of Thrones, like in season four, I think it's like Joffrey references that Rhaenyra gets
yeah,
fucking killed.
yeah,
But
yeah, like he's like because it's funny. It's for one like he's like showing Marjorie all like the Targaryens in the set the Baelor and how they died and that, and the only one they show is how Rhaenyra died, and and also in that scene like when like Joffrey's showing it and like uh someone pointed out that like the sort of great uh thing that like that the camera's shown through is the exact same as the final shot of the season where like Rhaenyra is like put positioned like on the shelf
yeah,
in like the two wide shots. And that's like such a good detail. That's such a good parallel.
that's the thing about good prequels. I feel like what makes a good prequel is that both the main series and the prequel both complement each other in good ways because like you see it all the time when there's good prequels and bad prequels, and there can be like a good prequel like Better Call Saul that like complements them both, and there'll be a bad prequel like I don't know. There's so many to name from, but just to insert bad prequel here where it'll just kind of contradict everything. And here in season two of House of the Dragon, there's a lot of neat things that like, it really makes you care for the characters instead of and the Iron Throne, like the 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 chase, the chase for the Iron Throne, the wanting to be king or queen, is still very interesting, despite the numerous warnings of there will be absolutely no happiness to come from the throne. Um,
Yeah, like it's because we all know that that chair is fucking cursed.
yeah,
That chair is cursed.
absolutely. And it's kind of like literally stated in Damon's like visions or kind of whatever he goes through. This it's kind of like a Damon's arc is kind of like a way to introduce the magic into the show because it
Yeah,
is
because David and Dan like pretty outright refuse to really do the really fucked up magic side of Game of
yeah
Thrones. Like it's not like wizards and witches and that. It's like blood magic. It's like ancient magic, like really trippy magic, and like it's
yeah
really well done here. Like the visions that did. Like I've seen people complain about it, saying like, he's just in Luigi's mansion. Okay, it's like
yeah
no, like this is so cool. Like because everyone was saying they wanted to see Millie Alcock come back as young Rhaenyra
yeah
because like technically her and I forget her name, but young Allison can technically come back for as long as the show goes on for because of the 10 year time gap.
yeah. And I think it like works here because in Game of Thrones, I like when I saw the magic, I was like, okay, there's like a bit of magic, but it's like it's kind of whatever.
It's like it mostly just went to like Children of the Forest,
Yeah,
bit of Targaryen blood magic, and the warg and stuff, like the Green Seer stuff, and that was it. Like
yeah,
they didn't delve into the magic of the old gods and that, like the Weirwood stuff. Like there's a reason why that shit is magical. There's a reason why like there's an island of them just outside Harrenhal.
yeah. Like when the magic like first started showing up with Daemon in the visions, I kind of didn't really believe that it was they were delving into like this much magic in the second season. I thought it would be like an explanation of like, oh, he was being drugged the entire time or something. But reading up about it and everything, I was like, oh, there is actually like this much magic that happens in like Game of Thrones. It just never really was portrayed.
Yeah,
Um,
because at first I just wanted to do the realistic side of it, like the brutal medieval stuff, and not the fantasy stuff of it, because it's still a fantasy world.
yeah,
It's just it's just a more brutal fantasy, you know?
yeah. And with like media uh like Dune, for example, where like there is very much like a kind of almost magical side to it. It's shown that like magic in these sorts of like pieces of media really do work like well, and I was kind of getting like kind of Dune vibes from certain aspects of the show throughout the season, um, whether that be like the visions and everything, or just certain things that happen in the show. I kind of I don't know, it tickled my fancy a bit, but I really liked Damon's arc this season, especially how it kind of ended last season where he chokes Rhaenyra and uh
Like he chokes her at the main mention that Viserys like not only told her something that like he didn't know, like he probably loved her more than he loved him. He's
yeah
very dependent on Viserys' love, but also like the idea of the prophecy that like maybe she's the chosen one and not him.
yeah like it,
And, and then this season's whole thing is him realizing, oh, so the prophecy is real, and I'm not important.
yeah
And like it's basically it's him getting humbled is what this season's arc was.
absolutely, and I really like how they portray that with like him kind of going back and forth, like being like, oh, it can't be true, but then going to maybe it is true. It's a very interesting dynamic throughout season two that I just really like, especially with
Yeah.
the scenes of the visions and everything, and like one of the final vision scenes of him talking to King Viserys, and Viserys is like, here is the crown. Do you still want it after everything I've told you? Uh,
Yeah, and especially since it's not like young Viserys in the first scene with him. It's like old,
old,
decrepit
yeah,
on his deathbed, like leprosy
yeah,
Viserys, and it's like because like it can kind of interpret it as like not only the throne like spurring him and like causing this,
yeah,
but also like the crown, like the idea of being king is like crushed him or like destroyed him.
yeah. That's a.
And it's like
Uh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Uh,
yeah, you're going.
it's a very interesting thing where it's not really like it's kind of like shown that it's not really the disease that really kind of killed him. Well, obviously it is, but it's more or less like a mystical.
Obviously, it was
Yeah,
like that one cut on his pinky got infected. That like the fact that he lost his entire arm and his
yeah,
eye.
yeah, absolutely. But it's very much um, like a heavily like there's a lot of like subtext and there's a lot of messaging
Like
in the scene that it was very much the being king is like almost like that's what actually killed him in the end. Um,
yeah, cause like those who don't really want to like it's kind of contradictory because it's the whole thing that those who don't want to be king make the best kings, but also like those
yeah,
who don't want to be kings end up getting like cut them like there's this whole superstition within the Game of Thrones universe that like if you cut yourself on the Iron Throne, it's because it's rejected you,
yeah,
which is a little ridiculous because it's a chair made of swords. It's going to cut you.
yeah. It's it's very much a thing of like Rhaenyra. It's definitely like she really wants to be queen now after like everything that's happened. Um, I mean, uh, I guess it's a thing of like Rhaenyra has always wanted that's sort of power because in season one we see her kind of like getting ahead of herself in a few scenes, like she wants to try and prove herself that she can be better, which is like which is absolutely great representation for like that time period because like what stated in season one is like obviously if people found out like a queen there was a queen ruling over the land, like people would riot and everything. But so seeing her kind of getting ahead of herself and um, like thinking she's way more smarter um, when she's like being a bit ahead of herself, a little bit like arrogant in some scenes, is very interesting to see because she's always kind of wanted to be in that position. She's always wanted to try and prove to herself, and especially in this season where she's had to like face the reality that she like for the first half of season one, I mean season two, she's pretty much powerless because she almost got assassinated in her own room, and she speaks about like how that she is in fact powerless. She's never like held a sword. She's never been in really much combat. Um, and she her whole kind of arc this season is there's a couple things, but one of them is definitely Rhaenyra finding her place as the queen, like finding what kind of like finding her place, finding her power, because it's not physical as we see. It's very much that her brains are like the true power. Like when she gathers the small folk to slowly turn against um, the king. Uh, it's very interesting how that forms and how she slowly gathers the Targaryen bastards later on. It's very much a thing of like her the true power she has is her mind really. But
Yeah.
I I mean there are a few other things with Rhaenyra like the parallels um between her and Helena um I don't know if like I don't know if you know this, but like there are a lot of like very similar parallels between like her arc being kind of mirrored between Rhaenyra and Helena, which is like in the first episode when they mourn their sons in like kind of similar ways, like clutching an item of clothing that belonged to them, um, or the fact that like there's a like a later on there's the idea that Rhaenyra like repudiates the idea that she wanted Jaehaerys's head, like specifically by mentioning the empathy with her little sister and everything. Um, there's a lot of things that get that are very similar uh, between Rhaenyra and Helena throughout this season, especially the like in like later on in season 2 when both of them look up to see the like the flower petals and dust and everything. It's kind of like the ash raining down the kingdom due to the destruction of a dragon fire. They're
Mm.
both like really disturbed by it. Like Rhaenyra tried to do like early on in the season, Rhaenyra tried to do all that she could to prevent that future. But by the end of the season, you can see that she's kind of embraced that. Um,
Yeah, like in the whole bit where Jaehaerys's head is like taken out of it, and like she's like, I couldn't do this. This is now my fault because of you, and like it's like seen as a negative because like she seems a tyrant, a kinslayer, and all that. And by the
yeah,
end, she's straight up asking for Aegon's head and says, "A son for a son." So like
yes,
it's like kind of interesting to see like how it mirrors Alison's as well because like Rhaenyra's is becoming more sort of like I don't want to say tyrannical, but like leaning into the more menacing like uh I guess like cold-blooded sort of feel like a leader is, and like
yeah,
Alicent just sort of like leading to Alicent's getting to the point where she's like she wants no part of this world and is just
yeah.
done with it.
I
Like it's kind
really,
of, it's interesting because like they mentioned like in the finale like history will see them as, in a certain light, which like because again Fire and Blood, unreliable narrator and all that, but like it's interesting that like their paths have kind of swerved in the opposite direction.
I, I, yeah, I really like that, especially in like episode 7 when the Targaryen bastards are getting like sworn up in flames. You can see that like it's kind of similar to Aemond, where she kind of enjoys the power of the situation now. Like there are some uh visual parallels, like for example sorry, I have like notes here and everything because there's so much I wrote down about this season. Um, like uh they're pretty much twinned, um, as like a yet untainted female family member challenges them on like a and the policies of burning cities of innocent people, and like the next episode, her brother Aemon does the exact same thing, massacring people and looking down on it, feeling like a god and like feeling powerful because like when he tried to go after Rhaenyra, like he just saw like how powerless he truly was, and it wasn't until he actually you know like slaughtered all those people did he feel powerful again, and that's kind of the scene paralleled in when she's when Rhaenyra is looking at all the people getting burned by those dragons. You can kind of see um, both of them feel kind of a what's the word for it? Uh, they can't. I guess they feel kind of good about it. But that's like it's kind of an interesting parallel is that she's slowly accepting that she wants that power instead of turning away from it like she did in like earlier episodes of the show, whereas like now her whole arc is that she's accepted that she um, kind of wants that power in a sense, and the I really like I mean I guess like speaking of like Rhaenyra's, I mean not Rhaenyra's, Alicent's arc earlier on, which was like, you know, when she wants no part of this anymore. It's kind of interesting how that evolved throughout the season, where it's like in the like when Rhaenyra comes to see her, she's kind of like, you can see Alicent being kind of I guess like she questions herself for a little bit, like, oh, was that really just like, was my son's um kingship like actually just a misunderstanding? And then she like thinks about it for a little bit, and then she like doubles down and like that thinks, no, that can't be true. It's not until after the events of episode 4 does she slowly realize that um perhaps like once she like start seeing what Aemond is doing and what's happening to Aegon, does she slowly realize that 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 this whole thing was actually kind of just a misunderstanding, how much they're fucking up. I really like the scene in episode 7 where uh, it's very much implied that Alicent just tries to kill herself in that in the lake.
Yeah, where
Uh,
like she goes out with one of the Kingsguard and like
yeah,
just goes out camping for a couple of days and like doesn't say if she when she wants to go back or anything and just
yeah,
swims and she probably very much contemplated just drowning herself.
yeah. I really like that scene because earlier on in the season we see kind of the exact same thing. Like when she was in the bathtub, she kind of tested the water. Well, no pun intended. She tested the waters and almost drowning herself in the bathtub. And um, and in this scene, she almost goes through with it until she rises above the water. Um, like it's very understandable as well why she would, because the just after everything, the whole misunderstanding with King Viserys, and after everything that happened to her sons, I yeah, I don't really blame her for, you know, thinking about that. It was like, it's very clear that the dress as well that she was in when she was swimming is very like, it looks very hard to swim in. And overall, I really like her arc. It's probably, if anything, I might say that Alicent's arc, along with like Rhaenyra's and maybe a couple others, is probably like my favorite arc this season. Like her slowly wanting to turn away from bloodshed than before, because she earlier on, like she's so like she mentioned in the finale, she was so used to those rules that she pretty much stood by them. Um,
And like having just like rewatched most of season one, she's presented as like a very bitter sort of character, like
yeah,
very like they mention it in in like season two where like she like tried to hide herself within from like being proper and the rules and that to like oppose Rhaenyra like kind of bending the rules and like
yeah,
all that and resenting her for it.
yeah,
Like
absolutely,
she never cared to actually follow the rules. She was just doing it in spite of Rhaenyra
yeah,
because they've both been placed in the exact same box, and Rhaenyra's been able to do whatever she wants inside that box, but Alicent hasn't. So
yeah,
she's just lashing out at her.
yeah, and I absolutely love that. And yeah, the same thing, like but before, like when like you can kind of see how much these two have changed, because when they first confronted each other in the season, it's very much Rhaenyra wanting to try and end this war as kind of as quickly as they can, and uh Alicent actually being the one to kind of be like, what's kind of what's done is done, blood has been shed, and now how much that has changed um in the finale, where Rhaenyra is actually the one being like, oh, blood for blood, like a son for a son, um, and Alicent being the
Yeah,
one
like
to end it. It's
it's
amazing.
it's like because in the people kind of saying the show is like has a bit of a black bias over like it's biased towards the blacks being seen in a positive light because Rhaenyra is protagonist, so of course you can run into that. But like I like that how this season's rectified that by like pointing Rhaenyra down an arc where like she isn't so like good-hearted, like she's kind of leaning into that sort of negative side.
Yeah,
And Alicent's and Alicent is now taking towards just being like, I want no part of it. I'm done, and like kind of giving her a more positive light. So it's like
yeah,
it's more like it's a bit like the book where like it's a bit more complicated and nuanced than just black and white or just green's bad, black's good.
yeah. It like in the show, there's like never really a sign of black and white. There's always something else to it, because like for Aegon, for example, yes, he's obviously a bad person, but um how much of that is his fault, or rather his upbringing, surrounded by terrible influences around it. Not to say that's an excuse for his like awful behavior, but it's obviously like a reason
Yeah,
of.
like we literally see the girl he assaults in season one working at the pub in season two,
Yeah,
and she's still very clearly traumatized from that when Ulf smacks her on the ass and she like just like jolts upright and like has a
yeah,
terrified look in her face. Aegon has done some damage, and like we know he has a lot of bastards because
yeah,
in the season one episode 9, like they go into that child fighting pit, and like just some of his kids are there.
yeah, exactly. Oh it's something that's, yeah, Aegon
It's
has done a
like
lot of damage.
he he very easily could have been like another Joffrey,
Yeah,
just like an evil, hateable character where like with Joffrey you can kind of get it because he didn't quite get that love or the right love from his father, or like his
yeah,
upbringing was kind of a bit disjointed, and like you can see how Joffrey would happen. Whereas
yes.
like whereas you do not feel sorry for him in the slightest.
Hmm. Like I
Whereas like with Aegon, you see what led to him being how he is
Yeah,
and why he is, and by like see by the end of season two, you just like you're not even really mad at him at any point because like he, not to say you shouldn't be mad, but like it's
yeah,
at a point where like you feel more sorry than anything. It's like his existence is pitiful, to be honest. Like
yeah,
it's if like when his son is dead and he's sobbing in his room and Ellison doesn't even like and now pat his shoulder or something just to show that he's loved. She just
yeah.
walked away. It's like just give the man a hug.
Yeah, even like with his like existence as a king might just be on accident. It might have not been actually prophesized, because there's this whole thing of
Yeah.
like Aegon the Conqueror, and how Aegon is like supposed to kind of live up to that name. Like there's clearly a lot of pressure for him to live up to that, and his first kind of real combat encounter, like his first real battle, he just gets fucking smoked. he he well, no pun intended. He does kind of just like he just gets owned instantly, and there's something about where he you can kind of see that he's been like maybe a bit humbled um after the fight. Not completely, but you can see that there might be some change happening, and I feel like it's going to be very um it's going to be like in Game of Thrones, where you can see what's his name? I keep forgetting that. It's been a while since I've seen Game of Thrones. I've kind of repressed like some elements of it from my memory. Jamie, that's right, Jamie, where like you can kind of maybe see a potential redemption arc coming, um, but it's I don't know. Season 3 hasn't come out, so I can only sort of guess. But I'm assuming for season 3 he is going to may potentially uh, come back. Maybe not completely as a better person, but I do think he'll probably be redeemed in some way.
I'm not so sure because I know how like the whole how things go down with him, but like I imagine they're gonna try and do this thing where like because all of season one was basically building to him being like the opposition,
Yeah,
and now now all of season two was like going like his mere existence, his mere life is just is just a joke.
oh yeah. So I guess it would be because like Eamon so clearly wants to get rid, because it's so clear throughout this season that Eamon kind of desperately wants to be king. Like he kind of like overthrows Aegon in like some area, like especially like when like Aemond literally just plots behind Aegon's back, and Aegon was like, why was I not informed of this? Uh, it's very clear that like he desperately wants to be king, and you can see like how Aemond kind of gets caught up in certain things.
Yeah, like because I was it was during the bit in when I just when I finished my rewatch of most of season one where like the bit where he stood up all badass and like in and like he's staring down people. It's like that whole cool facade is just a facade, like
Yeah,
on the inside, and he's put on this shell of like this cool, cold, calculated badass, but really he's just a sad little boy lashing
yeah.
out and thinking he's smarter than he thinks he is.
I really like Aemond as well, because like it's like you said, he's kind of like a just this very big facade, and then once you see him, like for example, like he gets made fun of because he's still with his first whore. Like he's very much um like just like kind of a sad child who still wants revenge. He still wants to prove to everyone how cool he is. um but once you see those scenes with him, it's very clear that like he's not this like cool badass character. He's just, I wouldn't say pathetic, but he, it's just kind of like sad, especially especially for how he's built up, because I do really like Aegon this season, because you can kind of see that Aegon and Aemond this season are kind of very similar to each other, as much as Aemond doesn't really want to admit it. Um, it's just that Aemond is a lot better at hiding that he's not like Aegon, uh, but they still share kind of like the same amount of like arrogance. It's just that um, Aemond was able to be a bit more patient. He's still very impatient though, and you can see like once that his like cool facade, where he thinks he's so invincible and everything, gets challenged. That's when he starts like freaking out, um, because like in episode 7, it's like he burns down. He just like slaughters so many people, and it's where you start to see more of the cracks in Aemond. It's it's very cool, and I really he's probably my favorite villain like so far. Um, but I'm very interested to see what they do with Otto Hightower, because he kind of just
Yeah,
gets fucking he just gets rejected, just kicked out, because
yeah,
Aegon.
but the way he goes out is just one of the best scenes in the
Mm.
season. Like
Oh,
his entire
absolutely.
rant towards Aegon is just perfect. Like the king is my grandson, and my grandson is a fool.
Yeah, you can tell he's been wanting to say that shit for a while, and now that he,
Like especially when he straight up says to his face, "Your father was right about you,"
yeah,
and
it's
drops the bombshell that like Aegon says, "Oh, my father wants to be the king," and Otto's like, "Sure,
yeah.
sure."
Is that what you really think, though? It's it's very very clear. Like there was a lot of maneuvering in season one in order to get Aegon as king, and now that he is, they're all just kind of laughing at him. It's I it's a very nice little subversion. But it's
Especially since like, and that you can see in real time Otto realizing I wasted 20 years of my life putting this bastard on the throne,
yeah.
and he's an idiot.
Yeah, you can really see the spitefulness and disappointment, because like from episode one, he's like, okay, Allison, I need you to comfort the king. We need to get in close. We need to make this happen. And then once it does happen, it's just like, oh fuck, god damn it, I wasted so many years. And you can kind of tell when he doesn't really write back to Alicent either. Like you can kind of tell that he's kind of like
Like you could maybe figure like I think at that point he's maybe realizing, oh god, what if maybe Viserys was right, them and Rhaenyra,
yeah, exactly. Like
because in that moment he's like like because he walks in and sees that Aegon's just like destroyed Viserys's Valyria model, and that probably reminded him of Viserys, and it was like, it's like, do you not remember him? How he was nice, how he
yeah,
thought of things, how he wasn't an idiot.
yeah. It's very interesting how they treat Viserys, like how his sons and how everyone in the Greens kind of treat Viserys like, oh yeah, well, what he said is what he said, but it doesn't really matter now. When in reality, like what Viserys does in season one comes back in a way that is so important in season two, where he it just basically the show basically proves Viserys right that these people were not made to be on the throne. They're kind of just fools in a way. They're not, and it's just so good. And whereas uh bit Rhaenyra and Daemon remember him a lot more differently. I oh right, I suppose uh I, do do we want to talk about Rhaenyra's relationship with is it Missaria this season? I think
Yeah,
it's
that's Arya.
yeah.
I mean, is there that much to talk about? Like, it's a case of like, I guess they one was it's Damon's current wife and Damon's ex whore talking.
Yeah. I I kind of like how their relationship progressed, as like it started off as a you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours situation, where like Rhaenyra lets her go free, and then uh Missaria saves her life, and it just kind of goes back and forth. Um and it kind of builds this relationship where it's very it's kind of it's kind of sweet, but it's very clear that they both feel for each other. Um, I I don't understand the controversy of the kiss, because it doesn't really happen out of nowhere. It's very much set up throughout the season.
Yeah.
That's kind of where it's going to go. Um,
Plus, like everyone was saying since season one that like Alicent and Rhaenyra had like chemistry as like the young versions. They had very sapphic vibes, but
I mean,
like like my gaydar was on point.
oh yeah. Yeah,
Rhaenyra is definitely a girl kisser.
I mean, like, how I saw it in like season one is that the only way I could see them like Rhaenyra and Alicent going at each other is hate fucking basically. um but that's like the only way I can see it. Um but yeah, now that we I I don't understand the hate for it though, because it's like you said early on, like in season one there was just like there was gay kissing like everywhere, and like I don't think, did many people even talk about it in season one, because I don't remember.
I don't think anyone gave a shit. Although to be fair, it might be because said person who gets one half of said gay couple ends up getting their face smashed in by the end of the episode.
I yeah that I guess that's why people didn't really
So
care at the
then,
time.
people angry at the gay case could then be like, "Yes, the gay is dead."
Yes, they're on our side now. They finally learned. The, I bet like
Yeah,
someone saw that as like
yeah. Kristen Cole was a bit, yeah. Kristen Cole was a bit homophobic.
yeah,
That's why they stand.
very much a homophobic dog moment where he basically like practically is like that's just not natural. uh, I right, yeah, Kristen Cole. I was going to talk about Alan House of Hope, but I guess we should talk about Kristen. He's a yeah, Kristen's always that is kind of just that character for me where I just kind of I kind of hate him, but like there are elements to him that like you can kind of like about, but overall it's
Like,
I think he lost all credibility for me when he called Rhaenyra in season one just like a fucking a cunt, uh, when like basically going through his incel arc. Um, but
it was in episode 5 where he calls her a spoiled cunt,
yeah,
and it's like you can tell that like that projection and him like smashing someone's face had really
oh
set
it,
him off,
yeah,
and also like
mm, it
mhm.
y-
but this season like he's I don't want to say he's mellowed, but like he like went down a pretty like very self-righteous, I'm invincible, I can do anything sort of vibe
yeah,
until Rook's Rest,
yeah,
and
and
then
where
it was then he got really and, and he was smacked in the face with reality that oh shit, we are fighting dragons.
yeah, it's not no longer like a very small scale war, because throughout the season they're all like, oh well, it's unlikely that the dragons will appear because they like, you know, we don't want an all out like war type of thing. We're gonna like the troops are going to be the main priority. It's not going to be a dragon war. And then in Rook's Rest, it is literally practically a dragon war that happens, and that's what it slowly devolves into for the rest of the season. It is very much a race to get as many dragons as possible, to basically be prepared to fuck everyone up. Um, Obviously, like the troops are still important and everything, but it is very clear that it's kind of going in the nature of, oh shit, they have dragons now. This might actually be our worst fears come true. Uh, Sir, like the way Sir Kristen Cole gets kind of, I wouldn't say humbled, but where he does kind of realize that they are kind of fucked. In episode 4 is very interesting, especially with the ending. But because the way it shows it from kind of his perspective, like the aftermath of Rook's Rest, is really nice. Like you can kind of, you're kind of in his shoes in that moment where you're like he's wandering around the battlefield and he's like looking for like his soldiers, and like one of them's just burnt to a crisp and their skull falls off their head. It's like uh, it, it's such a great scene where you can just, or you can really feel the impact when Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon really like stops pulling their punches. They really know how to make an impactful scene. Uh, Throughout that entire like section, I was on the edge of my seat. Uh, where
Yeah. Like, like the thing with like George R. R. Martin stuff is that he doesn't position war as like this cool fuck yeah sort of thing. It's like no, war is like traumatizing. Like war is like the most. It's like it's something that the latter half of Game of Thrones kind of fell into, where they started glorifying the battles, and it's not
yeah,
seen as like and it's not seen as horrific.
yeah, because like first half of like of Game of Thrones is very much a war is very bad. These battles will end in fucking like in a lot of pain and misery, and whereas like season 6 kind of battle the bastards thing and everything, you can kind of see how it glorifies it a bit more, um at least from what I've seen, since like I've seen like most of Battle of the Bastards, but I mainly just because it was on uh TV, and I was just like, oh, okay, I'll just watch this, I suppose. um but yeah, I really like how they portray it here, where it's very much like throughout season 2 there are a lot of bodies strewn across. Like I think there was this one conversation between one side and the opposition another, and then it just cuts to their fucking dead body across the battlefield, and it's just so traumatized. Like it's a lot of the imagery shown in the aftermath of warfare is always shown as very such a traumatizing thing. It's never once being like, oh yeah, this is really cool. Especially it like in the moment, like when Aegon was was getting kind of fucked up by Rhaenyra's dragon. They almost had like a moment where it's like, oh, Aemon's coming to save me, this is so cool, and then immediately shutting that down, where he just gets fucked up by the flames and
Nah, I had
homophobic.
that thought. I had that thought as soon as you see that Aemond is there and he brought Vhagar, it's like, well,
Yeah.
this is gonna be a disaster. Like like the thing that if that people seem to forget is that Vhagar is the biggest thing in Westeros right now. It is the she is a 200-year-old like
Yeah.
a 100 she's a 100-year-old flying nuclear bomb.
Yeah.
Like she brings dust and fire anywhere she goes. And if you're bringing her to like just an any old battle, it will end in like just fire. Like
Yeah.
it'll just be like everyone there will be a pile of dust on the floor.
What?
So like it's so like anytime you see it's where like Hannah, it's because like they keep because like they keep comparing her to Balerion, who Aegon she's not she's not even as big, and like she's meant to be like the most powerful thing in all of Westeros right now. And like the fact it's just used as like it's just used to torch random castles and that like Rook's Rest was a and like it was a blip on the map, only chosen because the Lord of that house belonged to one of Rhaenyra's council.
Yeah.
And like they bring it's like how do I put this? It's like it's like it's like bringing the Saab bomber to the Battle of Hastings.
It's like it was meant to be a very kind of like small scale type of war where like if things got out of hand, then Aemond would just bring Vhagar to the battle and just fucking torch everyone. But like it was very clear that it kind of didn't like seem like there wasn't really uh like it was only starting to seem like there might have been a need for that. But then all of a sudden like Aegon comes in, and the whole battle turns into a fucking it turns into a mess, and the everyone on the House of the Dragon team did such a good job at making you kind of fear whenever Vhagar was on screen. After episode the season finale, you kind of feared whenever Vhagar showed up. That scene of where Rhaenyra's child just gets fucking decimated by the dragon.
Yeah,
It,
especially since like they show that Aemon didn't mean to do that.
yeah,
Like
it just shows the
it
sheer
like it like
power.
like it ties into what Viserys said in episode 1, where like the idea that we control the dragons is an illusion.
Oh yeah,
Like it's like you don't control them. It's like trying to say you control a lion.
yeah. It like they very much want to do their own thing, especially when when Aemond is going to the Rhaenyra's place, and he's like turn around, and they still and he has to literally fucking force the dragon to turn around because he knew that that was a battle he could not win. He was bloody terrified.
Yeah, because like Vhagar is Vhagar, but like he has like 6 dragons on her side, like
Yeah,
7 when Daemon gets there, and one of them is Vermithor and 2 are Vermithor and Silverwing.
yeah,
Some of the oldest dragons that are living right now. Like there's a reason why Jaehaerys flew on Vermithor, and why he's called the Bronze Fury. Like he could take.
oh, oh, sorry, uh wait, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Just cut out for a sec.
Oh yeah, but yeah, there's absolutely a reason why, and the way that like you can like that scene where Aemon gets like humbled is just amazing, because throughout the entire season Aemon has been such a big threat, because whenever he gets challenged he immediately goes to Vhagar, and whenever he does it's just chaos is about to happen, because you know he it's very much where Aemon thinks like, oh yeah, I control this dragon. But throughout every time we've seen where Vhagar is shown, it's very much a sign of like Aemon does not control this beast, because like he originally just want to like put a scare in
Yeah, she wanted to put a scare into
yeah,
Lucerys, and like scare him off, and like
yeah,
because like in the book, like well in the book, like because of the whole bias thing and like no clear source, like they say, oh, there's no way that was an accident. There's no way he didn't not mean to do that. Whereas here, it's like you can like the look on Eamon's face when he's flying away is like I just started a war.
he's like, ah, fuck. The look on his face is absolutely priceless. There's some humor throughout House of the Dragon, that like some really dark humor that I just kind of find funny, like
Yeah.
that scene of when I forget who their names are in the finale, but after the mud fight, um the 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 woman is basically like, I want you to uh give me children, and
Oh yeah, I'm a Lohar, I think they're called.
yeah,
And And Thailand asks, "How do you plan to do that? I want you to fuck my
He's
wives."
like, wait, wives? You like you can clearly tell he was like, oh, you want me to fuck you? No, no, it's
Yeah,
my
yeah,
wives.
because thing is, like they give Loha he him pronouns, but he's played by Abigail Thorne, who's a trans woman. So
Yeah,
like you can't tell what gender he is.
it's kind of cool in a way because it makes it makes what do do I refer to his as a he or her? It's very
Uh,
confusing.
I mean, Abigail Thorne's referred to her as a woman, but it, maybe it's a case of like across the narrow sea, pronouns are a bit fluid.
Yeah, so
I don't know. Like,
I might just go with they them because they
just go for that.
yeah they it's very much a case of it's very it's very funny when that scene happens, and it's stuff like that throughout House of the Dragon, where you'll get tiny little scenes of just like very dark kind of humor, um especially when the assassination, the attempted assassination of Aemond in like the first or second episode, and where that goes wrong, and like immediately just thinking of like how Damon was like, oh, it's the one with the eye patch, and they somehow managed to fuck it up, and in the second episode, it's just kind of funny the result of that, but it's also really fucked up at the same time.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, I think the one that got the biggest laugh out of me was with Sir Simon Strong, who was like one of the best new characters because he's just an absolute Chad. But like
yeah.
I think in the finale when Rhaenyra arrives and she like confronts Daemon, you just cut to him and he goes, "Oh dear."
Yeah, absolutely. I, I absolutely loved the new addition of these characters this season. Every new character is pretty strong. I'd say. Like there wasn't really a time where I was very bored by these characters. I every single time they appeared, I was like, oh, I'm in for a treat watching
Well,
them.
I mean, you're in it for like different reasons. Like for Simon Strong, like because he's such an entertaining character and like such a
Yeah.
I hate saying like oh he's such a Chad, but like he just is like he's such a he's just one of them characters where like he can't even help but marvel at like the shit he says.
Yeah,
Like him
absolutely.
putting like the whole bit where like Damon's demanding he be called king, and like he explain and like he goes,
King.
well, if I marry the queen, what am I? King. There you go, consort.
Yeah, console. It's just like Damon's like fucking just call me king. uh, but yeah, there's a lot of really good um new introductions to characters.
Yeah, there's also Alice Rivers who like is so interesting because like we don't know what she is.
Yeah,
Like she suggests that she might just be a barn owl, and the thing is
yeah,
that might be true.
yeah. Might actually be the case, and like Damon's like, oh, that's such fucking bullshit. But like seeing what happens this season, you're like, yeah, that might actually just be the case. She's such a mysterious character that who is a very big help to Damon on his journey. But throughout, you kind of like are kind like part of her intrigue is just the mysteriousness of her, and I'm not exactly like. Do, I wonder if we're going to get a bit more insight onto her in season 3, or if it is just going to be a case of we don't really know what she is. Uh, like we just kind of have to guess for
Well,
ourselves.
consider we got a great big bombshell at the end of the series in terms of like lore and magic and that. We'll probably get something like
Yeah.
the whole little teaser trailer for Game of Thrones they play at the end.
Oh yeah, yeah. The Frost Walker, like not the white the Frost Walker, the White Walkers. Like it's and I'm guessing the the backside of that Targaryen
Well,
was Daenerys.
that was Yeah, it's Daenerys because like
Yeah,
I think in the behind the scenes they confirmed that like three of the eggs that Rhaenyra gives to I forget what her name is either Baela or Rhaena
I think maybe
like
Rain.
yeah like they confirmed three of those eggs were in fact Daenerys's eggs.
Yeah, it's it, I kind of liked that vision of like seeing basically Damon seeing the utter chaos, like this entire war that is happening in the show, like that's being built up, just a blip, because after that a lot more is going to go down. And he basically tells Rhaenyra that like this war, we have like a lot more to fear, winter is coming and all that. And it it makes me it makes me happy that we're getting to, like, they're not introducing the White Walkers immediately, they're only setting them up at the end of season 2. I really like that. I just
Well, well, I don't think we're gonna actually like see them. I think
Yeah,
it's more just a case of like him seeing what
yeah,
Aegon's dream probably was.
yeah, exactly. I
Plus, they showed the Three-Eyed Crow or the Three-Eyed Raven, Brendan Rivers. You see him like wrapped up in like the tree and that with like uh, a red birthmark on him with like white hair.
Yeah.
That's you know Max von Sydow's character in Game of Thrones. Oh wait, you haven't got that far yet. I'm the person that Bran meets beyond the wall in the tree that teaches him how to green seer and that.
Oh, right. Yeah, I haven't gone that far at all.
Yeah, you don't really you do. This is good. This is going to take a little bit of explaining, but a couple of generations after Daemon, there's Aegon the Fourth, who was like Henry the Eighth of the Targaryen dynasty. Like
Oh,
a big, he was like a big fat bastard who like would slob on everything, would fuck any woman he would have, and had a billion bastards, and
oh,
like he was so rotten that he died on the throne just of his own obesity. Like he was that rotten. And on
oh
his
God,
deathbed, he legitimized all of his bastards.
God damn.
And one of them was named after Daemon, and he named himself Daemon Blackfire after the sword that they use for the Conqueror and that. And that led to a bunch of rebellion because it was like Daemon seemed like a more legible king than the current king.
Yeah,
And that led to a whole thing, and Brynden Rivers was one of those bastards.
yeah.
And eventually he's a scheming bastard. He's the scheming person who like serves a few kings, and eventually we get to one king, Aegon the Fifth, who will be introduced in the Duncan Egg TV show because
Oh
he's the
yeah,
egg in and because he'll probably be in that, hence why they're using the same actor. Um, and he gets banished beyond the wall, and he gets sent to the wall, goes beyond the wall, becomes a three-eyed crow, and teaches Bran how to green seer and that, and so on. Game of Thrones never mentions that at all. Like, never even implied.
oh, I see. So, oh yeah, I damn, I didn't even know any of that. It's
Yeah,
so
yeah,
just
because like,
worse than
wait,
Aegon.
what? Uh, uh, well, well, Aegon isn't the worst Targaryen king, to be honest. Like, there was Maegor the Cruel, who was,
Yeah.
his name's Maegor the Cruel, of course. The fact that he's forever called the Cruel is kind of tells you all you need to know.
Yeah, exactly. God, the Targaryen kings are just kind of fucked,
Yeah,
aren't they?
yeah. But actually, I'm kind of hoping that they do like a Blackfire Rebellion's TV series or like a because I think they've said House of Dragon is going to end up 4 series, but I do kind of hope that like they continue it in some fashion and make it an anthology series that goes back and forth across the history. Because
Yeah.
like season one was basically building towards it. Like it introduced Daemon Targaryen, who eventually gets that, I know, like his great grandson is named after him, and like it shows the sword Blackfire that belonged to Aegon the Conqueror, and it establishes the point of looking like a legit king. So it just feels like it's laying the path for it, and like them actually showing one of the Blackfire bastards is like, oh, please give it to me. But also like in like a great big vision that like teases basically all of Game of Thrones. It's just, oh, it's interesting.
Yeah, I really loved how they teased that in the finale. It's just so disappointing that Game of Thrones ended up the way it was, because that tease would have been so
Yeah,
much cooler if
yeah. I
if
think part of me is really hoping that like I know because of professional courtesy they can't outright say yeah that shit didn't happen, but
yeah.
like they have to do something about the
Yeah,
ending
I
because like
think
I know because like George's ending hasn't happened yet, like it's still
yeah.
being written,
Yeah, that
but
written quote unquote. uh
but the show's ending is like set in stone. Like it, like you either you retcon it or you create that Jon Snow show where like you try and work with what you have and make it better.
it's very much a case of, I feel like they might have to retcon it because or like you said, the Jon Snow show, but I feel like it might be more satisfying if it was all retcon, because then not all of it, but just the probably like the final season was just kind of I know people have been asking for that for a while, but I mean, I don't really blame them. uh I it
Like because well, for one, like the whole thing is the prince that was promised. Like that's the whole thing, building to the whole Azor Ahai prophecy. That was all throughout Game of Thrones, and like it was teased that it was either Jon or it was Dany.
yeah.
And considering they straight up they showed Dany, and like although the showers have said it's not the prince that was promised wasn't her, it was more so just going like it's that like she's and like it's beyond Daemon, and that was and it just showed her to be like that's the time of the Targaryens that's important. This is just a blip.
Yeah. I
But like you can't really do that when like the whole prince that was promised that will unite the realm and push back the dark. When there was no prince that united the realm and pushed back the dark, it was fucking Arya who just dropped the
yeah.
knife into the Night King.
Yeah, I yeah, I feel like I feel like the probably best way to do it is just retcon the final season, because like the things that have been said, like it, the stuff that is shown in like the end of season 2 with the flash forwards, so they're so cool, and they got me really excited, and I'm like, damn, I can't wait to watch, like I can't wait to see that happen. Oh wait.
Yeah, the thing is, because the prince that was promised to have, and like the Jon Snow show being announced at the same time, I was thinking maybe they're building to that. Like maybe they're built because if he's the last Targaryen, because well, face it, he is because Dany dies at the end of season 8, and Jon is objectively the last Targaryen.
Yeah.
So like, it's like surely it would be building to him and like being like, oh no, that wasn't the long night. This is the long night, and then you do like a whole, oh no, like this is the actual ending.
Yeah. It I feel like the it would just be kind of funny if the if it was just confirmed that the entirety of Game of Thrones, like the post, like the final couple seasons of Game of Thrones, was just Jon Snow's fucking dream while he was like practically comatose.
I mean, that'd be more interesting what they do when they do bring him back, because
Yeah,
like because well, I don't mean bring him back in like a, I mean like when he comes back to life,
yeah,
because like the whole point in like with like I think it's Beric. Yeah, it's Beric Dondarrion. Like he constantly gets like dies and comes back over and over again.
Yeah,
And like
I
the whole point is that you lose something every time. And like uh Ed says to John, like, is that still you? And like the whole thing is that maybe he's not quite the same John, because like he like executes everyone. You think maybe he's gonna be more bloodthirsty, and then like they just don't do anything. He's just the same John.
oh God, yeah, I kind on the brighter side, at least like where it seems like Game of Thrones fans are just eating good. Like we got a new show announced, that takes place like what, like 100-ish years after House of the Dragon and 100 years before Game of Thrones or something like that. So we're getting that. I I feel like I feel like people are going to be disappointed when they find out that show is probably going to be a bit more slow paced instead of finding out that there's going to be the Reigns of Castamere every episode. Um,
Yeah. I'm just saying. Speaking of that, I'm really annoyed that they used that for the Lannister theme in this season.
yeah, it's
Because like it's not a flaw. It's not like somewhere it's like, oh, like it's like where I'm angry, but it's like the whole cool part about the Prince of Castamere is that it's diegetic. It's an in-universe theme about and song about Tywin taking down Batarbix and the House of Rain, and
yeah,
like it's it's meant to be like an in-universe thing. Like they play it, and like it's both diegetic and non-diegetic. And like
it's
I thought it'd be kind of cool if they make a new Lannister theme, because oh yeah, that theme doesn't exist yet. But then
yeah.
they use it anyway. Like they used a bit where it's like, and so we spoke, but the person who fucking spoke doesn't even exist yet.
It's very much a thing of like the reason I like the Reigns of Castamere theme is because I know what happened in the Reigns of Castamere, where that that hearing that theme is like, oh shit, trouble is about to happen, uh because like
But like I kind of get it, because like I mean it's an iconic theme for a reason. Like it's my favorite villain theme of all time because of that history,
yeah,
because of how like it has that story behind it of Tywin drowning like a dozen men, women, and children in their halls.
yeah, it's just like I kind of felt the same way. I was debating on whether to bring it up here, but like now that we are,
Yeah,
I
like
will say
I was gonna bring it up. It's my biggest pet peeve of the entire series, because like the Lannisters are my favorite sort of group, mainly because of Tywin and mainly because of the Rings of Castamere. Because like just everything surrounding that is so cool, and
yeah,
but the Lannisters here, it could be pretty cool, but like most of it's because they're using the Rings of Castamere. Like
yeah,
and like I get it, Raven Digimati. Coming up with a new original theme, especially at the end when they play all the iconic themes, like just intertwined, like some, not using the Marines of Castamere when using the House Stark theme and all that. It'd just feel weird, but at the same time, I wanted that nice bit of prequel soundtrackness, where like
yeah.
the soundtrack from the original show doesn't technically exist yet, but even though it, do you know
It
what I mean? Like it's the meta
it would
bit
be
of it, you know?
nice. Like it, I feel like what would be cool if it was kind of like something that sounds a little bit similar to the Reigns of Castamere, but like off enough that you can tell it's like a different theme, but it has like kind of those vibes of Reigns of Castamere, like like in Dune, how they made the House Atreides theme, kind of like a Paul and Charlie's, I believe, in like the second movie, where you can kind of tell it's the House Atreides theme, but like not really. Um, I kind of
Mm.
wish that they did something similar to that, where you're like, oh, that is the Reigns of Castamere theme, but it's more fitting for the time. It's not exactly the Reign Castamere theme. Uh, I don't know. Although I can like completely understand why they didn't, because again, it is very hard to come up with iconic music like all the time. Um, but yeah, that's probably like my only issue slash non-issue with the season, because I think that like season two of this show overall is practically perfect. I can't really point,
Yeah.
like I feel like
Well,
everything is.
again,
Oh, sorry.
the thing is, it'll only get better once we have season 3 and season 4 because,
Yeah,
like, as I've seen plenty say, like the lack of a I don't like not to say I agree with it, but the lack of a proper finale and like it kind of feeling like set up for season 3. Once we get season 3,
yeah.
that will matter. Like once we
It's
actually once once we get the thing it's building towards this whole they're just building towards this thing won't matter anymore.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be recontextual. Like the season, once season three and four are out, everyone's going to be like, "Oh shit, we completely misunderstood season two. This is what it was all building up to."
It's like I was just thinking this like in relation to like a lot of shows because you kind of run it for three different perspectives.
Yeah,
You run it for the fans who are like watching it right now and on social media interaction.
yeah,
You're also going to be watching it for like the fans who are like you're going to be watching it for like the casual fans who aren't on social media and aren't going to pay attention to that. And you're also going to be writing it for like for the casual fans, but also going to be writing for people who are watching it when the whole show is out
yeah,
a few years from now, like when the entire series is out, then like you're also writing it for then, like not so much as like in, something to engage with right now and like as a series that goes on, but also as a complete series that you can watch in one go. Like
yeah,
once we have the entire thing, then it'll be a lot more. I want to say palatable, but like I guess once you binge it, then it's like the issues just will be gone. It'll just will be as apparent.
yeah. Exactly. I feel like that's the issue with like that's the unfortunate issue with like TV shows that come out like yearly or every couple of years, is that expectation of it being something grand, when in reality that's just not really how stories are told sometimes. Like they will sometimes be slow pacing in a story in order for arcs to be fulfilled. Like it's like in Better Call Saul, for example, when it was coming out, everyone was like, the first two seasons, everyone was like, "Oh, this is like really slow. Like it doesn't seem like it's going anywhere." And then after season three, people were like, "Wow, this is like I can see it now. I can see why like those two seasons very necessary." And it's just going to be the same for House of the Dragon, where everyone everyone's like, "Oh, well, see season." I don't know if season one is getting any like hate at the moment. I don't. I think it's mainly just season two that's getting a lot of a
Yeah, like it's because of the gay case and
yeah.
like there's a particular channel that I always saw as like a fairly decent Game of Thrones channel, which was called I think it's called High, Supercuts Delight. That's what they're
That's
called.
right. Yeah.
And have you watched them?
I've watched their like plot hole videos on Game of Thrones. Their most
Yeah,
popular
like
thing.
but like but like I don't know how to put it, but if you know, you know. I get the feeling that he watches Mauler, is all I'll say.
Yeah, I
Like, like he's put a video saying the finale was disappointing, and like he did a kind of clickbait video where like he was discussing the episode where the gay case happened. Like the thumbnail was, is the gay case a problem or something? And he only talks about said gay case for like 2 minutes, and he's
yeah.
like, yeah, it's fine. It's like I get the feeling that he's
I
plus like I get the feeling he's one of those who like who would complain about politics
yeah.
who complains about politics, but in like not so much like a hardcore way, but like a soft core way. Like
He
I don't know how to explain it. Like in terms of the spectrum of nerdrotic to like, and not the other
neurotic.
end of it. He's like in the middle.
Yeah. I like when I saw it, he strikes me as the person who like I don't want like again I don't want to like attack him or anything because the last thing I want to do is like I mean I doubt he's even gonna watch this anyway since we're like small as fuck, but um the way he comes across is that he definitely seems like he takes more the audience into account rather than his own opinions. Like it's like, oh, the House of Dragons season finale was really unpopular. I guess we'll make a video about how that's unpopular and how it was bad, rather than like I just kind of got that vibe from because I've watched a few of his videos, like The Last of Us, uh um the Last of Us show he did about how it's like a perfect adaptation. It just kind of strikes me as how he it's definitely like a
Yeah,
follow the sheep thing where it's like a
yeah, and I don't want to watch his video on the finale because, especially because I don't want to see what he has to say on Abigail Thorne's character, because I've seen what some of the fans have been saying on her, and it's just like
oh
I checked out the subreddit because I heard it was bad. I thought, oh, how bad is it? And it was like a lot of comments just straight up saying, I thought that was a dude. And it's like, uh, that's my mood gone.
yeah, it's like when I saw like I wouldn't have even recognized her until like because I know that you pointed it out to me the other day. I'm like, oh, it's her. So I got like I immediately made that, but I would have immediately just thought, oh,
Yeah,
that's just the character instead of being like, oh my
yeah,
goodness, it's a
like
trans
yeah,
person.
yeah. It's like a lot of people saying like, oh, it's representation. No, it's an obligatory YouTuber cameo. But like,
I'm not.
it's she's an actor in her own right.
Yeah,
Like. And like yeah, the philosopher joke, the philosopher when she asks Talent if he's a philosopher, and her channel's called Philosophy Tube, it's like funny, but like if you didn't know what her channel was, you wouldn't notice. Like
I
everyone's saying, oh, everyone's saying, oh, it's so on the nose, but like genuinely, who would give a shit? If
I'm
you know, you know. If you don't know, you don't know.
I'm not gonna lie. I wouldn't have known unless like until like you like mentioned it the other day where like, oh, it's this person who's in the finale. I'm like, oh. And then when I finally recognized her, I'm like, oh, it's that person because like the philosophy channel you were talking about, like I've only seen a couple of her videos, so I you know I can't really like I can't really say. It took me a while to
I'll,
like recognize her and everything.
I'll be completely honest. I haven't actually watched her videos, but I follow her on Twitter, and all I can say is that she's hot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a fair enough thing to say.
That's what yeah, yeah. All I'm gonna say is like she has some moments where it's like Ed mother.
It's
But anyway, but yeah, like I still want to watch that video because I get the feeling to be like, oh, they threw in like forced representation or something like that. Which
I
is funny because the lead of the TV show is played by a trans person.
yeah, it's very weird because I
Which
wouldn't have even known that Rhaenyra's actress was like trans until I saw everyone online just talking about it. I was like, oh, wait, this is a bad
yeah,
thing.
yeah, Emma Darcy is non-binary, and like it's
Yeah.
especially funny because like in this season, one of her small council is played by an actor called James Dreyfus, who, if you don't know, is a major transphobe.
Uh, it's
Like put it this way, I mentioned Big Finish with you a couple times for Doctor Who audio company,
yeah.
and when they did audios for the first Doctor, he played the Master, like like the first Master, and eventually his transphobic views were found out, and he was promptly booted off, and he's been saying ever since. It was like, well, like 6 years ago, that oh, I was kicked off Doctor Who. I was kicked off because I was trans because of my views on women and trans people, and it's like, okay,
I mean, I
but
mean,
but, but he managed to be in this show and share scenes with a trans person, all while he was on Twitter complaining about the TRA, which is like and it's like an and that's an acronym for something. They have acronyms for fucking everything, like but. I'm not even sure. They have words for anything we do. It's just stupid, but like someone pointed out, like a Doctor Who account like pointed out, and like he name searched himself and found a tweet and was like, actually, me and Emma are good friends, actually. And then you go into his Twitter, and like his very next tweet is complaining about trans women. So it's like, oh,
It's yeah, it's like are you sure about that? It's like
yeah,
it, it's kind of weird seeing how like everyone's like attacking like the trans like people in this show, or just like any sort of representation in this show just immediately gets like attacked. And I don't know why, because like that's kind of like the whole point of like House of the Dragon is like it's very much like a focused like a show focused solely on the like on the women characters.
yeah, and focus on the issues of living in like a
Yeah,
medieval society. It's all centered around Rhaenyra's oppression, like her being seen as a weak candidate to be queen simply because she's a woman, and how like it's weaponized against her by like everyone else, and then eventually it's weaponized against Alicent, which she helped perpetuate to try and get against her, and it's like it's
yeah,
just it's a fucked system. Like just misogyny is so burnt into the institution that
yeah,
like the only way to really not be affected by it is just to escape.
yeah.
Like
Which
especially in the bit where like she tries to propose herself to be Queen Regent while Aegon's
yeah,
big, and
and
she gets basically forced out by everyone,
yeah, because like
even though she even though she has experience being a regent because she ruled while Viserys was ill, and
yeah,
then like and they pull out every excuse in the book, like well,
yeah,
it was a different time a week ago.
yeah, exactly. It's definitely one of those, like even in season one, like even if you would make the excuse that this only happens in season two, like in season one, like it's also addressed that when young Rhaenyra is like thinking of ruling um one of the I think it's Rhaenyra or someone,
Rhaenys?
Rhaenyra, yeah, who says that they wouldn't accept her and there'd be like riots across the street like if Rhaenyra was to ever come to power. And it's just one of those like things, like if you haven't noticed, like the show is very much like very pro feminist, like very far left. Then I don't really know what to say.
Well, I mean, considering they made the Valarians black,
Yeah, I like.
because that was a big thing, because in the book they didn't really have like a set thing. I think the skin might have been described as white at some point, but like the show making having them be portrayed by people of color was like definitely like a choice. Like it was a choice to like like set itself apart, or like set the Valerians apart from like the Targaryens. And like at first a lot of the usual Griffith channels were like, oh, they did this, they forced woke, and then
Yeah,
eventually they realized for sure was good, and I was like, oh well,
yeah,
we're fine with it. We're fine with it actually.
yeah,
And then suddenly changed all their trailers to all their videos to just and uh, just make it so that it's less noticeable that they were saying it was gonna be bad.
yeah. Exactly. It's definitely like because like when it was coming out, like I remember this vividly. Like everyone was complaining about how some people in the council were black, and uh it's now it's I don't think it's really even talked about now. It's like the only thing that's being talked about now is really the gay kiss and maybe some of the feminism in the second season, but I don't really see
And
anyone talk about like how the some of the people in the council are black. This is terrible. Like which
uh,
I guess is good now. I'm not really sure. It's one of those things where it's just like, have they just forgotten about it, or are they actually just like since no one else
I
is
think it's
complaining about it.
I think it might be because there's only one, not like it's only like a few. Well, I guess because two of them died in the first season, like
Yeah,
Leno and Lena died,
yeah,
and now there's just now there's Alan and Adam.
yeah. Alan. Oh yeah, Alan and Paul. I like. I really like. Like. I think I've seen some complaints about like how his arc is just kind of pointless, which I'd have to disagree on because like I
Well,
I
is there an arc? Is it not more so just like Corliss?
it's
Not,
I feel like it's more or less conflict that gets resolved near the end because it's the whole conflict of Alan and what's his other name? It starts with
Adam.
Corliss.
Adam.
Adam. Um, like when like that confrontation scene happens with Alan, and he basically talks about like how he was abandoned and only now is he coming back to him and it's well one of those things where it's very much a conflict that gets set up throughout the season. I guess it's less of an arc, more of like a conflict resolution type thing where uh you start like wondering like it's is he going to say something about it, and once he does it's like a very satisfying moment in the show where Alan just stands up for himself because like what he says to I think it's Corliss or Adam, I can't remember,
Yeah,
is
he says it to Corliss. Adam's his brother.
yeah, and it is very much like deserved because like you can tell that like Corliss can I can't say his name properly. Uh,
Corliss like
Corliss.
could never see him as a son.
Yeah, like it's very clear that he could see the confrontation coming, and once he saw like a smidge of that coming through, he like tried to shut it down immediately by saying like, "Oh, you're dismissed and everything. You can stop." But like after that, it honestly, I it made me like his character a lot more because I was I wouldn't say I wasn't like engaged with him, but I found Alan's character to be like kind of okay. I was interested in what was going on, but when that scene happened in the finale, I was like, oh, this is great. Um, I can understand the criticism of the set piece, like Alan being in kind of the same set piece too much because it does kind of give off the vibe that he's only at one place all the time. But that's kind of the point. Um, oh yeah, speaking of set pieces, I feel like the set pieces in this season like there are a lot more. Like you can tell that the budget has kind of just gone up. Um, like for everything, especially like the cinematography that I kind like we kind of talked about earlier, but the you can tell it feels a lot more cinematic. Like every episode just kind of
Yeah,
feels like a movie. Um,
yeah, like Game of Thrones look good, but this is like consistently just gorgeous.
yeah, it really does feel like I know this saying gets said around a lot, and it's like sometimes it can be very annoying, but every shot in the show kind of feels like a painting or something like a painting come to life. Because there'll be these shots of like soldiers like marching off to battle, and you get these like like one from the kingdom. You can see them marching along, and you're just like, oh wow, this is gorgeous. Because like not only does the characters keep you engaged, but there's so many moments of just visual pleasure that you can see that just keeps you engaged as well.
Yeah,
Um,
and, like some shots have been like in my head ever since I watched
oh
the
yeah,
season. Like the final shots of Rhaenyra and Alicent, where
yes,
it's match cut. They're in the same position,
yes. They
and
it's like they're looking at each other. Um, from like, but it's such a far away distance. They're it's so close, but yet
and
so
like
far apart. Just kind of
and like there's the story behind it where like Rhaenyra is like just she's positioned so that she's like just on like the shelf of scrolls so that she's trapped by her history, whereas Alicent is free.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And
Yeah,
like also the way it's shot, it's like they're dynamic. They're looking at each other, but in both of their scenes, they are both far apart. It's like very clear of their relationship. It's now it's not what they it used to be. It's now very far apart. When in season one they were a lot more closer to each other. Um,
yeah.
it's very neat, and like I did like a lot of the cinematography for season one, but I feel like they upped it on another level for season two. Um,
Yeah. And even like some VFX shots look really good. Like
oh
in the
yeah,
Rook's Rest battle, there's one shot where it's like it's Veigar like crawling through like the smoky ruins, and like you see it
mm,
on like a sort of groundish level, and you see her crush like one of the soldiers, and like it's just showing the scale of it.
yes,
And it's like and like it's just a simple shot of her walking towards something.
yeah,
But it's
exactly.
been in my it's been stuck in my head ever since.
Yeah, like in season one, you could kind of tell that the VFX for the dragons were like you can tell they're on a budget. Like it looks good, like it looks really good, but you can kind of notice that it kind of looks a bit not that real. Whereas in the second season, you're just, like
Yeah.
they look
I'm fairly
gorgeous.
certain they've also upped the tech for what they do for it as well, so there's certain new techniques in there.
Yeah, like the dragon taming scene, like the details on the dragon as it like slowly creeps up, amazing. Uh, I like the whole dragon taming scene with the Targaryen bastards, where it's just like so incredible. I think like I like after the episode Small Folk, when I started like episode 7, like one of the first shots was like Rhaenyra and her dragon on the beach, along with the dragon that had been tamed, like Adam, isn't it? Adam, the guy who's
Yeah, Adam, yeah.
yeah, both of them like
Where
facing each other.
where he tames Sea Smoke and she's just,
Yeah,
and I guess staring him down.
it's like when I saw that, I was like, wow, this is like gorgeous. Uh, like it also like I know that Rhaenyra is like slowly turning into more of like kind of a kind of like I get kind of reminded of like a Mad Queen situation for her, where you can kind of tell she's gonna uh you know go a bit more insane as the season progresses.
I don't want to say insane, but maybe go further, like go a bit more morally
Yeah,
grayish.
yeah, because like what the scenes with her later on in season 2, I'm just like, god damn, she's so badass, but at the same time she's going kind of like she you can tell she's going a bit off the deep end, like in terms of like morals. And it, it's you definitely know how to write a character greatly when you're kind of conflicted on, I know I shouldn't be supporting her or anything right now, but I really like her. um and that's just something like that. The yeah, especially the Harrenhal stuff, like the shots and that. Oh, they were gorgeous. Like when Damon first enters into Harrenhal for a first time, it's like this very dark and mysterious place, and it kind of reflects just how like the cursed nature of the castle he's kind of living in, and I really like that. The, I have we oh, there is one thing, because like the hard thing about when covering a Game of Thrones slash House of the Dragon thing is that there's so many characters that like sometimes you forget about a couple of them because like some of them aren't as prominent in the show. But I
Uh,
really like the way how they use the small like they kind of focus on the small folk in the greens. It's like kind of like because at first you're like, okay, I want to see kind of where they go with this, but and then seeing where they all end up, it's very interesting. What's his name, Tough Uff, something like that. The it's
Um,
the
one of the bastards.
yeah, it's the guy who uh like gets really scared and runs off and then manages to claim
Uh, Ulf. He's
Ulf.
called Ulf.
Ulf. Like throughout like the throughout the season, like he seems very up himself. Like he's like, oh, I'm a Targaryen and everything. And then once he actually gets the opportunity to go, he's a bit nervous. He's a bit scared, and you just kind of like throughout you realize like he's like all of like that confidence shown earlier is just mainly just a show because he pretty much like tames a dragon on accident, um, but due to like because of yeah, you think when he like cracks the egg and everything, uh, you think, oh shit, he's just dead. Um, but I really like what they do with him. They kind of make him very like he's very disrespectful in a way where he's sometimes uh,
Yeah, I've seen some people say like he's a bit of an asshole, but like, well, to
I
be fair,
wouldn't,
he is like. But
yeah,
like, it's a case of like he's someone from Flea Bottom, like someone like a small folk
yeah,
who's like suddenly being thrust into basically dinner with the Queen,
yeah,
and and you're expecting him to just suddenly have honorably change behaviors like that.
yeah. No, he's gonna get like a huge ego boost from, especially after taming a dragon. Like he's going to be very like very kind of egotistical in a way, and um, like he acts a lot like he acts like he like in one scene he's better than everyone else, and he kind of treats the prince like shit, and then like he realizes once Jacaerys I think is I keep on pronouncing his name
His
wrong.
name, just call him Jace. Like that's what
Jace,
everyone calls him.
yeah, when Jace like reminds him of the real stakes of the situation, he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Like, it's not that like it's like his fault that he's an asshole. It's just kind of the environment he grew up in that like he just needs to be reminded to be taken down a peg or two. Like he's not intentionally being like this terrible person. He's just like that's just like kind of in his nature for who he is. He doesn't really. I guess the thing is that he doesn't really mean any harm by it. He just needs reminding. Whereas the other one who's the other one who claimed the dragon who like Hugh,
Hugh the Hammer.
yeah, his like his character throughout the season like slowly uh trying to make everything work, like denying his heritage at first to then fully embracing it and seeing that as like almost it's the only way he can move forward. Like he's been avoiding it for so long where he just can't stop running from it. He has to fully embrace it. Is such a powerful I never thought that I would get invested in a lot more of these smaller characters, but I'm really glad that it paid off by the end of it all because I'm now really interested to see where all these characters will go in the third season, who will die, who won't. Um, it's just something where it's like you made me get invested in characters I originally would have never cared about, and that like I just think it's such an ingenious idea to explore the the non-royalty side, like the townsfolk, and how they're being affected as well. It makes you kind of more engrossed in the conflict going on. Like when there's no food or anything, you can kind of like when Rhaenyra like finally drops off like food to everyone in the greens, you can kind of like really feel the happiness in all the townsfolk. Uh, but you can also see how they're being swayed as well. It's a very well done a thing in the show, and I'm very glad they explored that side to it. Um, it's it's also how like I like how Aemond is like his consequences for ignoring the townsfolk is kind of his downfall in almost a way, because he's so focused on stopping uh like trying to take down Rhaenyra that he kind of forgets to focus on his own people. And whereas earlier on Aegon attempted to care, but was reminded by like Otto Hightower that he just can't, like, there's some things that he just can't do for his people. Um, I find that very interesting. Of like the 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 one time where the king tries to care for his people, it gets like shut down. Um, it I I don't know. I feel like that I find that very interesting to me, and the way it's paid off later on is very satisfying. I just really like I know some people are like, oh, the slow episodes are so boring, but I personally I find them just as interesting as the more eventful ones, just to see like how all the schemes are put into play. It's just so interesting to me. Um, oh, hold on one second. Sorry, I'm back. But yeah, it's little details like that throughout the show that I kind of adore, and makes me like the season a lot, like kind of a bit more, because I believe I said earlier that I kind of like I kind of like season two, like just a bit more than season one. I still think that they're pretty close to each other. I just think that season two has a bit more of that edge to it, where production is better. The pacing is a lot more smoothed out. I will be I will be one of the first to say that, like, I think the pacing for season one is pretty good. It just like takes some time to get used to. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else you
Um,
want to mention? Uh,
um, anything else? I guess little stuff like certain characters, like I guess like for instance, like Laris. I mean, how like third season one he was built as like the spy master, and like how in early in season two he like starts manipulating Aegon, and then once Aegon is taken out of the equation, he tries to do the same to Aemond, and then like he gets kicked out and told, "No, I don't want you. Get my granddad."
yeah, I really like that. Like how how he immediately thinks, oh, am I going to become the hand? He's like, no, you fucking toad, find me someone to be the hand. It's kind of like, again, it's kind of like that dark ish comedy in House of the Dragon, where it's very few and far between, but when it does happen, it's just really funny. Um, but yeah, I real Laris was kind of like a standout, like side character for me in this season. I found his I found him to be very cunning at points, especially with Aegon, like the scenes with Aegon. So like some of the, like when he's talking to him, oh, it is very good. I One of my favorite side characters this season. Um, but yeah, that's what I mean. Like for the most part, like I like there wasn't really a time where I wasn't engaged. There's like every time like the show changes from one character to another, I'm not like, oh, I prefer more of this character. I'm always kind of engaged in what's going on with another character's conflict. Um, which is something I kind of like. But yeah, I guess is there any? Oh, I guess before we end it, unless you have like more to talk about, I guess we could talk about what we're kind of expecting from season three. Just kind of like expectations, I suppose. Um, like just stuff like that. Unless you have something else you want to mention.
Um, I think I've got everything I need to say.
All right. Um, I do you want to go first or should I? Um,
You go first.
all right. I suppose expectations for season three. I think people might have a bit too high expectations. That's just going to be like total war throughout season three. I think there will be a couple of slow moments, which I hope they include. I feel like it would be a bit too, uh, I guess, desensitizing if they just did straight war the entire season, which is obviously where it's heading to. But if there's a couple slow moments, I'd probably appreciate that more. Um, Also, I was very interested in Jace's character. I really hope we get more of him. He like he was featured in season two, but I kind of wish that there's more of him in season three because his whole arc of
And also, he's kind of going down like a much more, and I guess, has much of a chip on his shoulder about being a bastard and Rhaenyra bringing in bastards,
yeah,
especially when he calls them especially when he calls them mongrels.
yeah,
Like, like that felt dirty.
yeah, absolutely. And the way he tries to prove to himself that he can be a successor, like his whole thing, like trying to be like a worthy successor to Rhaenyra, is very interesting. Like how he goes to some of his meat, like he tries to sort out duties on his own, and sometimes Rhaenyra just like might like because like what the stuff that he did later on in the season, and he comes back and he tells Rhaenyra about it. She just kind of brushes it off, I suppose, and I'm very interested to see how his character will play out in season three because I don't know, I was kind of really invested in his character this season. I kind of want to see more of where that leads to. Um, I but I guess I what else is there to expect? Uh, I don't know. This I feel like you know uh I feel like the showrunners shouldn't feel so much pressure. Just try not to feel the pressure of the fans. I suppose like if there are a moment like I feel like they should take some time in season three. Like of course like have it like be like a fast paced all out war thing, but they like don't feel pressured not to take like more slow moments in the show. I feel like I feel like sometimes some of the fans feel like Aegon when they're told that they can't fucking battle yet. It's I immediately laughed when that like in the first episode when Aegon was getting like when Otto Hightower was like telling him like, oh, we must be patient and everything, and Aegon was just like, oh, this is so boring. I don't know. I just found it very funny since I was immediately reminded of the discourse on Twitter. Just just remind me a lot of that. But yeah, I feel like great. I feel like season two, like honestly amazing. All they need to do is just stick the landing for the payoffs in season three, and I don't know, I'll be happy. Well, what about you?
Well, I guess because well, thing is, I've kind of started to notice like a section the seasons in my head where like season one is for context season, and this season is for one where it's like it's the build up to
Mm,
the actual war and that.
absolutely, yeah,
And I imagine season three will be where things sort of blow up in a sense where like war starts really breaking, where like because this is supposed to be like a civil war. This is like a war, like the most devastating war in Targaryen history. So like we're definitely going to see a lot of that in the next couple of seasons, and season three might be where a good chunk of it happens.
Oh yeah,
So I imagine that'll happen. But also, obviously, it shouldn't all just be war. Like it shouldn't always
yeah,
be hype for the dragon. Although I hope there's still plenty in there. But
yeah.
I'm just I'm interested in seeing where it goes with Alicent in particular, like her
Mm.
story arc of like just wanting to be free, and what they do with Aegon in particular. Because knowing his ending in the book, I want to know what how either how we get there or what they're changing.
Yeah, I Alicent is my favorite character, pretty much probably my favorite character of season two. So I'm very interested to see whether she can be free for long or whether she's going to be forced back into this war, um, in just stuck in this unwinnable situation. I feel like that's what's going to be very interesting. I feel like season three, Rhaenyra and Alicent are going to be probably the main stars of it, along with like Aegon and Aemond, maybe even Daemon. But I feel like Daemon, like a lot of Daemon's character has been season two. I feel like they'll still explore in season three, but I feel like a lot of his character uh has kind of come full circle in season two. If if that makes sense. But uh
Yeah.
yeah. Uh I don't know. So, is there anything else that like I don't want to miss anything, although that's probably going to be the case anyway, since it, again when talking about these shows there's just so much to talk about. Um but yeah, I think I'm pretty satisfied with everything we've covered.
Yeah, I think this should be enough for now.
All right. Yeah. Well, that will conclude this episode of the podcast. If you liked it, then why not consider sticking around? We do these well practically whenever. It's not there's not really a consistent date to them. It's just whenever we really feel like doing it. But
Yeah. Yeah, and initially this was going to be our Pride special where we were going to cover It's a Sin, but that was
yeah,
planned for June,
yeah, like
and
I
it's all
yeah. So I don't know like if we're still covering that. Maybe not. It's kind of like a thing that's up in the air.
we've still got plenty. We've got plenty ones, a few ones that have to be delayed for a bit for
Yeah.
reasons, but
Yeah, because of a certain someone doing certain bad things.
yeah, we for context, we plan on we were thinking of doing a Good Omens episode, but then Neil Gaiman had to Neil Gaiman.
Yeah, there's been a lot of planned things that
Yeah,
have been like kind of cancelled, but due to just recent events and like uh,
yeah,
and just things going on in the world at the moment has just
yeah,
been kind of
yeah. Like
depressing.
for instance, when we watched Doctor Who, originally we watched an episode of Succession afterwards,
Yeah,
and eventually now it's gone to the point where it's like I don't want to because it's too grim and too accurate to real life.
yeah.
Like, like, you said that you find comfort in the twistedness of it, and ever since the Trump assassination attempt, and everything since then, it's gotten to a point where it was the UK election, everything after that, where it's like, yeah, it's comforting when it's not happening, but when it is happening, it sure isn't comforting.
yeah, but because I believe I mentioned like like there's a section in season three of Succession where there's a plot line of where the characters try to get the president to jump out of the race by using the news to spread like kind of like hateful shit towards them, and it works where they drop out. And I just found it very similar to what has been happening with Biden and his dropping out of the race, and it's just like, oh shit, that's a bit it's a bit too real for me there. It's kind of the unfortunateness with I think it's Jeremy Armstrong or something who is creating the show. He has done a lot of political dramas where it's just like his unfortunate talent is managing to like managing to predict things without knowing it. But yeah, there'll be more episodes to come. It's just at the moment it is uh it's it's pretty unsure what we'll do next, but rest assured it will come eventually. Um, but yeah, thank you all once again. If you're curious on following us, Evie has a Twitter. I have a YouTube. I'm not so sure about a Twitter. That shit's kind of going to hell at the
Oh,
moment.
yeah, it's going to absolute hell. I mean, for goodness sake, the owner of Twitter is beefing with the Prime Minister of my country.
Yeah, it's kind of going down. So you might not find me as much on Twitter,
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
you know
Unfortunately, I'm in too deep.
yeah
I can't escape.
yeah. So if you're looking for someone to follow on Twitter, Evie's the one to follow. I'll post occasionally, like probably like once a day, if even that, and uh, mainly a lot of my content will be on YouTube. So if you haven't seen me there, then I'd recommend checking me out there. But yeah, that's all for now. We'll see you all when we see you all. Ta ta, everyone.